Hey guys, hope you're okay. Welcome to the Keep It Spiritual show and podcast with myself, Chris Meredith. Now, in this episode, I bring you the beautiful Seed Sistas, aka Fiona and Karen. Now, in this interview, I bring you their brand new book, which is called the Sensory Herbal Handbook. This book is designed to really help you and myself and everyone else to reconnect with nature. That's what it's all about. They love herbs, they love plants, they have so much energy as well, and that's what it's all about. So really hope you enjoy this interview with the beautiful Seed Sistas. Welcome to the Keep It Spiritual podcast and show, Fiona and Karen, aka the Seed Sistas. So first of all, how are you both doing?
Oh, hello, Chris. Thanks for having us. Well, it's like the endless summer at the moment. It's just been sunshine and more sunshine. And that is my kind of weather. So I'm enjoying being able to be outside in my garden and wild spaces in this lovely warmth.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And how about yourself as well, Fiona?
Yeah, all of the plants locally seem to be really enjoying this weather. It's like the endless summer with the odd evening of rain here and there, and they're just loving it. Everything's blooming and blossoming at the minute, and yeah, strange times, but really enjoying all of the online connections and interest that people have got rising up in plants and herbal medicine and magic. So
beautiful. I cannot think of a better time right now, for, yourselves to be here and creating some magic. But before we talk about your beautiful book, let's get to know you guys a little bit first, if that's all right. So with everything, when did your love for herbs and plants first start?
I think we were both born with it. I mean, I had a deep connection with the garden through my grandma. So I was brought up by my grandmas because my parents were working, and one grandma in particular loved her garden, and she was full of the magic of the plants. So each individual plant was her baby and full of reverence for nature. And she wasn't a religious or a political person, but she believed that nature is God. And so I had that instilled in me from dot.
That's so lovely. So lovely. How about yourself, Fiona?
Well, I recently found out that my first ever food was rosehip syrup. And,
wow.
Yeah, I've got a rose tattooed on my shoulder because I'm really connected with we're both really connected with the rose, actually. We've both got separate journeys that have led us to using the rose in a lot of the practices that we do. But I was brought up with a sense of nature being a playground and a wild space. We were running free in the mountains of the Lake District and climbing up waterfalls, and me and Karen have talked a lot about this, that we feel really blessed that we never had that sort of epiphany moment of realising that the earth was alive. It's like we've both always known that. And when we met, it was like kindred spirits that had kind of been on quite similar journeys that had brought us to the same point. And we've both been working with herbs since our early teens, really. So actually found our way, got completely guided by the plants from a very young age. And I feel really privileged to have had that direction. I've never really felt lost, and it's always been the herbs that have been the constant companions wherever and whatever twist and turn of the path I've been on. So
I love it. It's a beautiful journey, you know, for both of you, you know, obviously two different people to come together through the power of herbs and plants. And it's just a really inspiring story as well. So one thing, you know, I get from both of you before even starting to read the book is that you instill a respect for nature and plants straight away. So do you think that's something that's needed now, like more than ever?
Definitely. And Fiona talked a bit about our respective journeys before we met, and we'd both been very active, trying to hold a kind of a space for resisting the constant appropriation of nature. You know, I was on the road protest as an early teen, and I really felt it. You know, when people came to cut down the trees, it hurts me. It does hurt me. And when I see ancient oaks being felled anywhere, it's like something is visceral. And we are nature. We are part of this. We've evolved directly from nature. And the way our modern world looks at nature as a commodity is a travesty. And there's, you know, we're very blessed to be part of a community of people that can see this, and it's a growing community. More and more people are aware of herbal medicine and aware that trees and plants have got spirits and are alive, sentient, and you're able to communicate with them. So the respect it's as much as we as humans demand respect, and it's important for ourselves to respect ourselves and other members of our family and communities. It kind of is the same thing for us.
Definitely. And then how about yourself, Fiona? Do you think it's needed?
I think the connection with the plant world naturally leads to care and protection of our wild spaces. We run or initiate the introduction of community medicine gardens in local areas, and the idea is that through bringing people together to grow plants and connect with herbs will naturally lead you to want to have more diversity in the hedgerows, to stop the fields from becoming bigger and bigger with less food corridors and divides between them, and to want to encourage diversity within your gardens as well, rather than just a blanket one grass lawn. You know, what can you encourage to grow in the grass? What can you have in your hedgerows that can be useful to you as a family? And naturally, by using plants in your day-to-day life and becoming connected with them, you develop that reverence and that want to protect the wild spaces. And it's like a lovely side effect of starting to use plant medicine, because you can't deny the energetic and the spirit of the plants once you start working with them and you see them popping up and calling to you, different plants in different years. It's almost like you might have walked past that patch but never noticed that herb until one year it suddenly calls to you. And we talk to that about people really following your instincts when you're learning about plants. So what comes to you, what calls, what do you hear about, what do you notice that's growing around you? So it's kind of a self-evolving thing once you start working with the plants.
It's so exciting. I absolutely love it. And I love your passion for it as well. And it's something I live in Manchester and I've just got a balcony. So I do what I can do. But this year is the first year when I've started to grow seeds, so fruit and veg. And I've never, ever done that before. I've always loved nature and plants and, you know, to go out in nature, how it just kind of renews your soul and you just feel connected to it. But to do it on my own balcony, like this year, I was like, why not? We eat carrots. You know, we have chili and loads of stuff. We've got tomato plants. And, you know, we use those in pizza, and it's just a lovely feeling to think, I've grown that, I've been part of that. And then, you know, if we don't get it, then wildlife might get it. So there's kind of no losing. You just kind of, I just love it. It's just really, really exciting. But on that note as well, I've got to bring us to, the beautiful new book that you've both launched, which I absolutely love, which is called the Sensory Herbal Handbook. First of all, what was the inspiration for the beautiful book?
Well, it's been a labour of love. It took us about 8 years to create, really from conception to delivery. And that's because it's representative of our journey with the plants, what we see reflected back to us from nature throughout the seasons. And it's almost like a system that we've developed, influenced by other systems of herbal medicine and magic and spirituality. But because it was something organic, we call it almost emergent, that it needed that time to incubate. And when we work with students, we always encourage them to create a beautiful handbook with all of their drawings, their musings on the plants, their stories around it. And we wanted something that was like a workbook that had all of our passion within the pages of it.
Totally does. Totally does.
I'm going to pick up on what Fiona was talking about, how when we work with our apprentices, we get them to do these botanical drawings, because we know that if you take the time to sit and draw a plant, you take in every single little detail. And we're very privileged to watch people's drawing journey, because 9 times out of 10 you ask someone to draw something, they're like, oh no, I'm terrible at art, I'm shit at it, I can't do it. And that's because they've been told at school or somewhere in their childhood that then they're not an artist. And after a few weeks of this continued practice, people become more and more confident, and we're seeing beautiful, beautiful creations. But Belle Benfield is the artist that illustrated our book. She came to us as an apprentice many, many moons ago, and we were just so entranced by her work, because she was able to really bring the elements and the spirit of the plants alive. And she did incredible work where she actually did kind of prints with the plants, and she got the dyes from each plant and just worked in a very ethereal and magical way. So we're lucky to have her working with us, and we're actually working on another project with her.
Ooh, exciting.
You will be excited about that one. This one's exciting. You will just wait for the next one.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Well, one thing about the book as well, like no matter, when people pick the book up, what time of year it is, you can look at the book and you can find a use, for plants in that season. So was that an important part of the book for you guys?
It's massively important to us that our work is practical. We believe in magic. We believe that healers and herbalists are the witches, the curandos, the shamans, the magic people. But magic isn't just an ethereal thing. And in a lot of neo-paganism and new age ways, it can be a bit wafty. And Fiona and I are very earthy people, and we want people to be able to take something practical and actually be able to interact on this kind of material level with the plants. Because yes, you can have a wonderful mystical experience with a plant, but you can also turn it into a pesto and then feed your family with it. And we wanted that full balance to be available to people.
Yeah, the recipes that you find in there are seasonal, but at the same token, there's places in the world that don't experience the seasons in the same way as we do in the UK. So the first part of the book is all about how to actually connect with herbs, and that's any plant. That we recommend that you work with plants that you know of, so you're sure about their identification. but that you then forget everything that you know about that plant or that you've been taught, so that you come to it as if you're meeting someone for the first time with completely fresh eyes, and that you bring your experience and your interaction with that herb into the fore. Because plants have, yes, they all have certain constituents. You know, nettles contain a certain plethora of constituents that interact with the body in a certain way. But how I energetically or constitutionally, and how you energetically and constitutionally interact with a nettle will be very different. Just like the parts that you might see in me, someone else might see differently. So it is like making friends with people, and that's completely across the globe with any living organism or entity that you could meet. So the book has this real focus on the seasons and how they interact with our body and the foods, because that's the form that we've been working with, because we're very in tune with our own seasons here. But we also wanted it to be completely accessible. So it's a guide to connecting with herbs as well.
And it really does connect. And one thing, you know, you both talk about in the book is that plants have got a voice, and they really do have a voice. And, you know, why do you think that voice has been lost over the years? I know it's sad, but it has.
There's been a war with nature. We've tried to tame and govern. And what we say is that people worry that the knowledge is being lost, but all of the knowledge about plants has grown from humans' interactions with their landscapes and with the plants around them, building up knowledge about the natural environment, what works for one condition or for one person and not for another. And the plants have many different ways of speaking to us, depending on what level we want to go in there. So some people can think more about tastes and flavours and what that might indicate. Some people might like to sit and meditate with a herb. Some are more connected with the drawing. And yes, the whispers have become quieter as the green spaces have been taken over, but those whispers are still there. And if we listen, they can grow again. And we're on a real cusp of that. People want to listen again, and the plants are still there.
You really are. How about yourself there, Karen?
It's an ancient fracture with humanity and nature, and it goes back to a time when we were hunter-gatherers and we were working and living much more in harmony with the natural world. And for whatever reason, maybe that became tiresome and exhausting, but we started to dominate. So as soon as we began our love affair with agriculture and really tried to we had to cut down the forests to create fields, for example. And there's a fascinating book, actually. It's called The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan. And he talks about how the plants actually dominated us. And, you know, he questions things like, why have we got fields upon fields upon fields of wheat? You know, how has wheat actually got into the human psyche and dominated us? And it's a really interesting way to kind of look at it from another perspective, because there are certain plants that human beings have got a love affair with and have cultivated, like the he talks about as well, for time immemorial, and then also tried to, you know, genetically change to create different colours and varieties. And I'm sure we could theorize and philosophize on it for a long time.
I love that. I've never even thought about it like that, but it is true, isn't it? It's kind of like why, are some plants more dominant than others? But it is quite interesting to think of some plants that they could dominate us. That's for another conversation and another time within that. But one plant you do talk about in the book, which I absolutely love, which taught me back to my childhood, was the daisy. Now, love the daisy. I remember making daisy chains when I was in primary school, and it just took me back to an innocent time, but it's kind of having a bit of a resurgence, I think, right now. So why do you think the daisy is so important in today's society?
Well, we were told by the daisy, she whispered in our ear that we need to put her in everyone. When we were picking the daisy, she said, get me out there and get me in everyone. Get us in the consciousness, because we're about play, we're about innocence, we're about when you get knocked down, you stand up again and you keep going without any bitterness, without any baggage about who's knocked you down, resilience, strength of character, and this connection to childhood and childishness that so many of us have lost in this fast-paced society where it's all about surviving, making enough money to pay the rent or the mortgage and get the latest whatever that's being sold to us. And we've had to become adults, and the adult world isn't that much fun. And being able to let go of all of those shackles and literally play and make daisy chains in the fields again is kind of like our birth duty. That's what we need. It's a duty. We need to be going and having fun and stopping, and really stopping. One of the things that this particular time, the lockdown, is teaching me is to be slower, because it's so fast. We're just in such a hamster wheel. Even us we've got our dream jobs, I love our work, it's beautiful, but it's still fast paced. You've still got to do all of this social media and communication and planning and booking, and it's like, actually, can we not just play in fields and find our friends and our kin?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Karen. Yes, I say we all should, stop what we're doing, go in fields, and let's play with daisies. Why not? How about yourself, Fiona?
That's how it started. It's booking and social media and going to lots of conferences and things like that. I mean, we always do play in the fields as well, but it started actually for us with the daisies. Was one of the first herbs when we were together that spoke to us. You talked about that language earlier, and we mentioned that there's lots of different ways of the herbs to communicate with us. And with the daisies, the first time we were picking them, it's not in fashion when you go and do a university degree in herbal medicine or phyto medicine. It's not one that's taught about on your materia medica, your list of herbs that are available to you. But we knew that it was in the same family as calendula, which a lot of people know as a medicine. So we were looking at this swathes of daisies. I've never seen so many since, actually. There were so many daisies, and we were like, and went picking them, just combing our fingers through the heads of the daisies and listening to them pop and filling our baskets full of them. And we literally couldn't leave the field. We knew we had to go. We actually had to be home to pick up Karen's son from school, and we knew we had to be home, but we just couldn't stop picking the daisies. And we were like, there's something really compulsive in this, and maybe that's what it's for, compulsive behavioural patterns, just by observing what it was bringing out in us. And when we went and looked, if you look at a standard herbal medicine text, it might have lists of actions, not so many of the psycho-emotional indications of a herb. And we went to Dr. Edward Bach, and there we found Bellis perennis, daisy. He said, in the flower essence, is for repeated patterns of behaviour. And we were like, we knew that, we got that. And where we've come to today is this consumerist, repeated patterns of behaviour or compulsive behaviour. We might be aware of it, but don't know how to stop it, but it's there. And the daisy is really specific for cutting through that, just bringing us back to this place where we can find joy in other things that aren't damaging for ourselves or for others. And because we had so much daisy, we made loads of daisy syrup, and we had to buy a new fridge to put it all in. And that's why we were like, Daisy's saying to us, get out there and do it. And we listened and we did it. We put it in combinations with other herbs. We put it in little drops, in passion potion, in drops of courage. And we went out and we started giving it to as many people as possible, just popping drops in their mouth as we walked past at events and festivals. And we're like, spread the joy world with joy, Daisy joy. And and it was good. And it was the sort of birth of sensory herbalism, really, was the daisy.
I absolutely love that. I love it. We all need t-shirts or something like, vote for the daisy or whatever. I'd love it. But the daisy's being spoke about here today. So, the words are going far and a long way. So we love it. Go Daisy. Yes. Love that. Love it.
Daisy. T-shirt printing.
You need it. But one thing as well, when working with plants and herbs, your intuition, you spoke about it a little bit before, intuition is so important. So, if we was just to go, walking and some plants are speaking to us, how important is it that we listen to our intuition, when working with plants and herbs?
Well, it's paramount, we believe. And, that comes to the question of being able to trust in our own intuition, which is another big hurdle that people need to jump. And we see that, similar to the art, where people don't think they can draw, a lot of people don't trust their innate intuition because, again, in our society, there's not much stay put in it. People don't respect intuition very much, unfortunately. So it's about practice or meditation, and I don't know if people do their own tarot or runes, but just really creating your own intuitive practice is key. And then when you're out and about, like Fiona said, you might be walking somewhere and a plant might catch your eye, but that moment where it catches your eye, that is that plant calling you. That is that calling you. And then it's up to you to take that call and respond. And whether that's going to sit next to that plant and draw it, or meditate with it, or maybe pick some of it to take home to dry and get all your books out and explore who is this plant, what's the history. But taking the time, and once again, it's about slowing down, being slow enough to give yourself the space to truly connect with that individual plant. But one of the things that we've written about in our book, and it's a very important tool to us, is the invitation to a particular plant that's called mugwort. And mugwort is a very, very common wayside herb in the UK and Europe, Artemisia vulgaris. And she is our own native tobacco. So similar to, if people have heard about various different Native American Indian customs, where when you pick a plant or you connect with spirit, you give an offering and they use their tobacco. Mugwort is the plant that we use in that way. And she is famous for strengthening psychic ability and opening gateways and just slightly shifting our perception so that we can really feel into what's going on. So I recommend getting to know mugwort to aid with intuition.
Oh, I love it. And how about yourself there as well, Fiona?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with intuition, because our intuition is is formed through the experiences that we have, and we really believe that you can learn to trust your intuition through, so starting, like we said, afresh yourself by connecting with the herbs before you then go to read books or find out what other people have written about it. And if, you know, we've had times where we've been harvesting a herb, lady's mantle, for example, Alchemilla vulgaris, and we'll be harvesting it, and our conversation will turn to our relationships with our mothers or our ancestral line, for example. And we'll suddenly be like, oh, maybe this is relevant, maybe this is important. And then when we start working with the herb, it turns out it has a specific affinity for your reproductive organs, but it really helps to connect and support any work that you're doing where you're looking back at patterns that might come down through the ancestral line, and particularly with the mother relationship. And it can seem really bizarre, thoughts that come up, or conversations you end up in, or songs or words that come to you while you're working with a plant. But it's worth noting any of those down, because they might only make sense later. And it's through that you can learn patterns that might come up by similar experiences you have. But yeah, learning your intuition is something that can grow and develop the more that you work with it. It might seem like a scary thing to start with, because we question if things are right or wrong. And a lot of us have been brought up in an educational system where we've been spoon-fed, and to suddenly be invited to tap into ourselves can be very scary. So yeah, having guidance and support with that, with the book, for example, you know, helps to take you on that journey. We run workshops and courses, and there's a lot of people working with herbs now that can help to take you on different foraging, so you can get to know the plants around you and then start working with them.
I love it. It's like a dream. I absolutely love it. So last question for you guys as well. So what do you want people to feel, you know, once they've read the Sensory Herbal Handbook? How do you want them to be?
I want them to feel reconnected or deepen their existing connection with nature, because Sensory Solutions, Herbal Evolution, which is our entity, it's a social enterprise. So Fee and I formed the company together after university, and we formed it as a social enterprise specifically to focus on cultivating change. So we recognised that we're both full of rage. We're just like full of rage, and that rage drives our creativity. And we'd like other people who also feel rage or anger, or maybe they're just frustrated about what's going on, to be re-inspired and reconnected with nature. And just anything that they learn or anything that they know, share with as many people as possible, because we are living in a time where people are forgetting about what an oak tree looks like, or that it has acorns, or what a stinging nettle looks like. And that's wrong. And anyone that knows it, we all have a duty to keep the stories and keep the connection strong. So that's what our kind of deepest wish is, that we can cultivate positive change for all of life.
You know, our heartfelt intentions are the same on this one, but really for people to feel a little less daunted by the natural world, and that it doesn't have to be complicated, and that the simple things that you can do to interact with and actually imbibe nature every day. And if you can just pick one leaf or smell one flower each day, that connection with the natural world can cultivate great change within yourself as well as within our natural spaces. So yeah, for people to feel encouraged and connected and inspired.
Fiona and Karen, I'm going to say, aka the Seed Sisters, thank you so much for coming on the Keep It Spiritual podcast and show. A pleasure. You know, the book will fly. You're reconnecting people with nature and herbs, their own plants, their spirit. You know, for myself, a massive thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
See you later. Mwah. There we are. That was the Seed Sisters, aka Fiona and Karen, right there. If you want to check them out, remember all that information is underneath. Now, of course, with Keep It Spiritual, remember to give us a thumbs up and a like as well. And at the same time, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tell everyone about it, because that's what it's all about. Keep It Spiritual is about keeping that community going and keeping connecting with yourself. So from myself, Chris Meredith, remember to watch some more videos as well. Tell everyone about it. Lots of love and light. Have a great day. See you later.